What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Action Network podcast presented by BetMGM. I'm your host, Chris Raybon, and this is your NFL Week 4 betting preview. We will talk about our favorite sides, totals, teasers, survivor picks, underdog money lines, and of course, we'll crack open our weekly Sunday six-pack of Against the Spread bets with the help of my co-host, the Prime Minister of Degenerate Nation, Stuck. Great week for you last week, Stuck. Congratulations. How you doing?
Yeah, you as well. We crushed it. I think we both hit our teasers, totals, and then went 2-1 on our side. So yeah, it was a hell of a week for the pod. That's all we want. But who cares? That was last week. Let's find some winners for this week and keep it rolling.
And for those asking, yes, these episodes will always be available in full on the Action Network YouTube page, posting every Thursday afternoon. So check that out if you prefer video, and be sure to give us a like and subscribe on YouTube as well. Let's get right into this week with our Thursday night football preview. All right, for this Thursday in week 4, we have the Packers hosting the Detroit Lions. The Packers are 1.5 point underdogs at BetMGM at home, and the total is 46. Still waiting on some injury news for the Packers as we record this, but what are your thoughts on this game, Stuff?
Yeah, we're recording this around like 2:50 Eastern on Wednesday, just to be transparent with everybody. And so we don't have really great, even with a Thursday night game, we don't have a full lens into the injury report. Both teams are dealing with a lot of injuries. The Packers, you have Christian Watson, Aaron Jones, two of your most important offensive linemen, and then on the defensive side of the ball, they also have injuries, and like the secondary could be really shorthanded. We'll see. Yeah, they could be down a couple of corners, and it's a very weird situation with the Packers because all those guys didn't play last weekend, and they were down to a practice squad guy on the playing corner for about 25 snaps. But they had a short week for a division game. Maybe they were just being cautious, some of these guys. I know that Dubs came out and said we will have Jones back this week, so there was some optimism there, but we don't know. Historically, the Packers have been really conservative when it comes to injuries. But then if you look at the schedule, it's like, yes, this game is important for the division, for playoffs. But then they don't play until next Monday night. And then after that, they have a bye. So, like, if you're like, hey, we're in this shitty division, let's just be really cautious and get everyone extremely healthy. Maybe they take a super cautious approach. So I don't know. If these teams are fully healthy, I actually make the Packers a slight favorite. So would like them here, catching points. I think I'm just going to wait on the injury report. Even if there's a couple of Packers guys out, and the Lions looks like they were getting better news than expected with a couple of their guys, with maybe Decker and Montgomery and company. Maybe this line creeps out to 2.5, and then I think I'm going to tease the Packers. We'll talk about some potential teaser pieces that you can pair with the Packers on Sunday. But I mentioned this on our happy hour show. Getting from teasing a dog up through a field goal and touchdown is ideal. But I think over time, getting up over 8 from 2.5 is going to become even more valuable than going from 1.5 to 7.5 because of what the Packers did last week, right? So you would expect more teams to do that after the Packers won the game doing it, and the Packers already did it, so you would do that again. So if they're down 14 late, historically, if you had a 7.5, a dog getting 7.5 in a teaser, you scored a meaningless touchdown at the end, you're kicking the extra point. You're covering your teaser. Now you're going to see more teams go for 2. You don't get it. You're going to see more results fall 8 and 6 than 7. So I'm going to see if I can get the Packers at 2.5 and tease them up. I probably still will do it at 1.5, depending on the injury report, but too much uncertainty right now. And unless I love something on a Thursday night, it's not something I want to get involved with. At least this is an intriguing matchup.
Yeah, I lean Packers as well. The interesting thing is, Matt LaFleur is now 16-4 against the spread as an underdog, 13-7 straight up, 3-0 against the spread as an underdog this year. So this Packer team, and you pointed this out in the offseason, has been a little bit underrated by the market. So yeah, if they're healthy, I would lean that way, but probably staying away. Just Thursday night, not my favorite time to bet. I forayed into Thursday night last week, and of course, I whiffed on a prop. One of the few whiffs I've had with Jalen Hyatt, who didn't even get a target. He didn't even get a target. So
I almost tailed you on that.
Good, thank God you didn't.
Why won't they throw near him?
I don't know, and he actually played more than I thought. I just think they didn't have time, which kind of makes sense. They should use him underneath a little more though, but they're just using him as a deep threat. But we digress. So Thursday night, I think Packers or nothing or tease it up, right?
Yep.
All right, and now it's time for the week number 4 Sunday six pack.
Thirsty for action? Let's crack open the Sunday six-pack.
All right, now it's time for our Week 4 Sunday six-pack. 4-2 last week, so good week for us. It's 13-12. For those new listeners, we do 2 points for each of our first 2 bets, a point for our third bet, a point for our total, which we'll do in the next segment. And if you sweep, you get another point. So 13-12 me. Should be a close race all season. Stuck, where are you going with your first pick?
All right, for my first pick of the Week 4 Sunday six-pack, I'm going with the Cleveland Browns, -2.5 against my Baltimore Ravens. I will, before I go into the reasons why I like this bet, I will preface it by saying the way I approach this is I moneyline parlayed Cleveland with the 49ers. It's about even money. Points should be at a premium in this game. Low total. Could see things getting weird. You also have 2 smart coaches. Like someone could go for 2 at the end. I just prefer the money line. Feel safer there. I've also been haunted by this game. If you've that I've been at, but for the past 2 years, if you are a loyal listener to this podcast, last year I had the Ravens teased up to +8.5. They lost by 10. Tucker had 2 field goals blocked in like a snow game. A couple years before that, I had -2.5. They won by 2 after they were up by like 18 and Lamar Jackson got hurt. It was a mess, whatever. So I had it. I have money line here parlayed with the 49ers about even money. But I like this bet. Still like it at -2.5 for what it's worth, up to -115. I like this bet for 2 reasons. This is the 3rd time I've taken the Browns on this show, and they should be undefeated, if not for 2 defensive touchdowns against the Steelers. The reason I've been backing them consistently is I've said it from the beginning of the year. This defense, I'm convinced now it's the best in the league. I've seen what I've needed to see, and this is the best D in the league. I talked about this in the offseason, right? Jim Schwartz going to fix a lot of that low-hanging fruit. They address the run defensive issues by bulking up in the interior. Add Juan Thornhill. You already have a really good group of corners, and it looks like Newsome practiced today as well. Very healthy team overall. This defense is playing with a confidence and swagger that I've only seen from like the most dominant defenses over the past 20 years. Myles Garrett's playing at a defensive player of the year level. He is terrorizing opposing quarterbacks. Just to demonstrate how dominant this Browns defense has been, their success rate allowed on the season is hovering around 25%. To explain how crazy that is, the second lowest success rate allowed, the Bills at 38%. Last year, the team that led the NFL, the defense that led the NFL in success rate, was at about 39.5%. The Browns are at 25%. 1 drive out of 39 have gotten into the red zone. That was a miracle catch on a 4th and 4. And guess what? The team didn't even score because Myles Garrett sacked Tannehill and the clock ran out in the half. This defense is playing at another level. I don't think the market is properly accounting for how dominant they are. And I also don't think that the market is properly accounting for how banged up this Ravens team is. Even today, Linderbaum and Stanley practiced, which is a good sign. Marcus Williams actually was out there in practice as well. But Kyle Hamilton wasn't now. Marlon Humphrey still isn't. You've already lost a couple other guys in the secondary, Ojobu, Owe, Beckham wasn't practicing today, Justice Hill. I could go on and on with the amount of injuries. This team has been down 7-8 key starters and a couple key backups. It's just not the same team. They were overvalued last week when I faded them. The market's just, I don't think is totally accounting for all the injuries the Ravens had. Yes, they start out 2-0, but they played a gimp in Joe Burrow, and then, a rookie quarterback making his first start on the road with an offensive line that was put together that week in a complex offense. So they really benefited there. I think that the Browns win this game on the backs of their defense, and there is no Nick Chubb, but you can attack this Ravens banged up secondary downfield. That's exactly what the Browns did last week against Tennessee. Tennessee, really good run D. Ravens been good against the run. They attack downfield. They're going to do that here, and I think they're going to have enough success. I love what I saw from Watson last week. It was like the first game where you said, wow. I think he was 27 of 33 for close to 300 yards, pair of touchdowns, no interceptions. I think the Browns win this game on the backs of their defense, which for my money right now, opinion could change. Best in the league. Too many injuries for the Ravens, and we're rolling with the Browns against my Ravens again, sadly.
Yeah, I'll have more on this game because I agree with you. This Browns defense is legit. So I'll table that, and I'll get into my first pick, the second overall of the week 4 Sunday 6-pack. And after much shuffling and debate, because a lot, as we were recording this, just for full transparency, a lot is going on injury-wise. So let's pull a little pinch number 1 and go with the Rams at +1 at the Indianapolis Colts. And in this game, I have it pretty much a coin flip game, but I have the Rams with better quarterback play. And I think that is the difference in this one, because when you look at Richardson and Minshew, both of them under 6 yards an attempt. Looks like Richardson's going to play, which probably is a slight downgrade for the Colts. But both of them under 6 yards an attempt this year. Stafford is still up above 7. He leads the NFL in big-time throws, according to PFF, with 10. Minshew had 2. Richardson still doesn't have 1. And I think LA, especially last week, didn't quite hit its potential. They scored fewer points than I think they should have. I think they've gotten, I don't want to call it luck, because I think it was, Sean McVay just uncharacteristically, I think, called a bad game on Monday night. But overall, the Rams are outgaining their opponents by 83 yards a game. And Indianapolis has been outgained in every game by 4, and they're being outgained by 45 yards a game on average. LA is 3rd in the league in first downs, 8th in first downs allowed on defense. They have a 70 to 53 first down edge. Well, the Colts have 56 first downs and have given up 64. So really what it's come down to for LA is they have a -3 turnover margin. They have 4 turnovers. And if they could clean that up, which I think it'll even out in this game, because the Colts, they have a +2, but they haven't turned the ball over since week 1. I think with Richardson back, especially, I don't think that's going to continue, but LA has been better in yards per play on offense, 5.3 to 4.6 on defense. They're about equal, but LA has had a tougher schedule. And this is the biggest differential in our luck rankings, which, those have been, when you attack these, 15 plus differentials, which LA is 26th and Indianapolis is the 5th luckiest. So that's a differential of 21. Those have been over 60% historically. So that got that kind of underscoring what I'm saying about LA. I think they could play better. And Sean McVay, off a loss, and again, did not call a good game Monday night. I mean, that getting sacked, 1st and goal at the 2, got sacked. Seemed like he just didn't run the ball in spots. Stafford also just couldn't hit Kyron Williams. For some reason, he was just overthrowing every running back.
McVay's clock management continues to also be an issue.
Yeah, it was just a bad game, overall from McVay. But things I think can clean up. And even with that game, they lose by 3 to the Bengals, and again, the Rams overall have been the better team than the Colts, even though the Colts have 2 wins and the Rams have 1. But McVay off a loss, this is where he does get things done. 21, 12, and 3, 64% in his career. On the road, 11-5, 69%. And as a dog off a loss, 9-2, 82%, covering by 6.8 points per game on average. So again, just a coin flip game, but give me the better quarterback. And overall, what I think is the better team, even though I have upgraded the Colts, as I'm sure you have as well. But I think the Rams can get it done here with Stafford, Nakua, Atwell, Aaron Donald, and those guys.
Yeah, we'll see. One of the injuries that I haven't seen, Ryan Kelly, their center, has been one of the best in the league. He was out last week. Is he? I know he was still in concussion protocol. We won't know today. He's got to.
I'm expecting him back. I'm expecting.
Yeah, one. Yeah, they'll return to practice on Wednesday, so he'll be back, which does help them a bit against Aaron Donald. But yeah, for what it's worth, I would lean Rams here. Have upgraded the Colts, but I do think Minshew is an upgrade as of now because. If Minshew, say they rolled Richardson out, this was gonna be my favorite total. I was gonna bet the over here, and still kind of lean the over, fast track against two vulnerable defenses. But Richardson isn't throwing the ball downfield at all. Everything is short. So the Rams can almost employ the game plan they did last week, knowing Burrow can't really throw the ball downfield, right? They're just going to keep everything in front of them, right? Run a lot of zones, you keep an eye on Richardson in the run game. And the Colts are going to have to go efficiently up and down the field. And that's just going to make this when the Colts have the ball, there's going to be a lot of clock coming off, and they're just not going to take shots because you can take shots against this Rams secondary and have success. But I just don't know if Richardson is capable of doing that. And Stafford, he's humming right now, and he'll have, I think, more time than he did last weekend in a hostile environment against that really hungry Bengals front that I thought won them the game in a must-win situation last week. Did a really good job. So I don't hate this pick at all. Would have played the over if it was Minshew and Kelly back, but still lean that way. But it's a pass for me, and I also would lean the Rams. And for what it's worth, just to throw back on my Ravens Browns, I did want to add one little nugget. I think that Myles Garrett, even if Linderbaum is back, Mustard's been really good in pass protection. Who knows if Stanley's going to play? You never know. Even though he came back to practice, he could still be out. I still think the Browns defense is going to be living in the backfield. They're blitzing a lot. They're getting so much pressure. They're winning their one-on-ones. And in this new offense, Lamar Jackson, and he has a bunch of receivers out now, backs out. He's 32nd of 34 quarterbacks in quarterback rating when under pressure. Minimum 10 dropbacks. He's been awful under pressure. I could see a couple fumbles here and forced turnovers, forced mistakes, which in a game like this is going to make all the difference. For my second pick and the third overall of the Week 4 Sunday 6-pack, I'm going with the Buffalo Bills -2.5. This is good up to -120 against the Miami Dolphins. It's going to make our producer, Matt Mitchell, extremely happy. Going back to the Bills at home, treated me well against the Raiders. Look, it's scary fading this Dolphins team. Their offense went off. They scored 70 points. Here's a tidbit for you. Over the last 50 seasons, after scoring 70 or more points, teams are 0-1 against the spread. How about that sample size? It's only happened one other time over the past 50 years. I can tell you, though, when a team looks that good, right, huge blowout win where they win 70-20, over the past 10 years, undefeated straight up and against the spread teams after 3 weeks, 0-4 against the spread of Week 4. Sample size of 4, but the reason I bring it up is Miami has 3 of those 4 losses. They've started 3-0 against the spread straight up and against the spread 3 times and lost 3 of those 4 times. One of them was last year. They beat the Bills in that weird game. Then they went on the road and lost in Cincinnati by 2 touchdowns. But look, Miami's great, legit Super Bowl contender. What they did last week is amazing when you consider Waddle and Armstead weren't even playing. Just an amazing performance. But let's slower roll a little bit. There's still some issues with this Dolphins team. One, they dominated 2 of the worst defenses in the league this year. The Chargers and the Broncos have been horrible. For reference, Sam Howell put up 32 points over the final 3 quarters against the Broncos. He was blanked, shut down, did nothing against this Bills defense last week. When the Dolphins played the Patriots, they were slowed down a bit. Bill went 3 high safety, said, we're not going to give you any explosive plays. McDermott great defensive schemer. He saw that. He's going to mirror some of that, I assume. But here's the thing. The Bills also can get pressure. They're one of 4 teams with a 30% plus pressure rate in the year, and they have a bottom 3 blitz rate. Can't really blitz this Miami offense. So they're able to get pressure without blitzing. 2 smart safeties on the back end. McDermott's going to have a good game plan here. And if you judge based on history, McDermott has absolutely owned Tua. 59 quarterback rating in 3 starts, 1 touchdown, 4 interceptions. His next, so that's the second worst against any one opponent, 59 quarterback rating. The next worst is 80. So McDermott has really been able to figure out this McDaniel offense. And look, what McDaniel has done, adjusting to the league with these different revolutionary motions, there's not tape on it. There's 3 games. The Bills have seen some of this. So, there's going to be a counter back and a punch back. And then that's the chess game in the NFL. But what this boils down to me is these are 2 amazing offenses. Everyone's talking about Miami last week, and rightfully so. But the Bills have beat the last 2 opponents 75-13, I think. They've dominated. The offenses look great the past 2 weeks. And the most important thing is the offensive line last week was spectacular. And that was against one of the best defensive fronts in the NFL, all graded out very well up front. And that's kind of what if you're a Bills fan, you want to see, because that's the only thing that I think can really hold back this offense. So when I look at this game, I think that we can get, 2.5 up to -120 because of what the Dolphins did last week. 2 elite offenses, but only 1 good defense. Bills have an elite defense, 2nd EPA per play, 2nd success rate. They're right behind, granted, there's a big gap, but right behind the Browns. If you look at the Dolphins, they're 20th, 21st. It's not a great defense. I believe the Dolphins are dead last in success rate allowed this year. So great, 2 elite offenses, 1 defense I trust, 1 defense I don't. So I just think the Bills at home are going to be able to get 1 or 2 more key stops. And also something to keep in mind that could actually make a difference, and again, that I think will be competitive, and can't wait for this one. Dolphins go by DVOA, 32nd on special teams. Their special teams is a mess. Last year, bottom 5 was a mess. Last year, Bills number 1 in the league. They have a great special teams unit. So again, special teams. Bills advantage, special teams, defense, 2 elite offenses. I think that getting the Bills at home against anyone under a field goal, I will take. So I think Buffalo gets this win in what should be a really good game. I just trust that defense to make a couple more plays than the Miami defense, which hasn't been good. And look, if the Patriots could convert, if they had on offense, they would have won that game. They had so many opportunities. They just don't have the juice that the Buffalo offense has. So I'll take the Bills under a field goal here all day.
Yeah, I don't really have a good feel for this one. I have it inside of 3, so I guess I would lean Miami, but I take your point. I think, it's kind of a sell high for Miami spot, and the Bills were favored by 7 in this matchup last year, and they ended up winning by 3, but now all of a sudden it's 3, and I mean, the Dolphins are a little better, but it's not, night and day. So, and the Bills are banged up last year. So yeah, I think I can get behind it. I can see where you're coming from, but no pick for me on this game. All right, for my second pick of the Week 4 Sunday 6-pack and the 4th overall, I'm going with the Tampa Bay Bucks plus 3.5 at the New Orleans Saints. And this just comes down to Jameis Winston for me, and the fact that the Bucks, I think, were a little underrated heading into the year. They've been able to hold up on defense. They've given up, 17 twice, and then, Eagles put 25 on them. But Jameis, for an offense that was already not really living up to its potential and not really playing all that well, the Saints haven't scored more than 20 points in a game. Now you got Jameis in there. The kicker's a little bit shaky as well. So I think there isn't as big of a gap here as, you might have thought coming into the year. But Jameis is just 8-19-1, 30% against the spread as a favorite. And if you could get over a field goal, which hopefully by the time you guys are listening to this, The line is still there over a field goal, like 2-9 against the spread. But either way, I think this Bucs team can keep it close. The Eagles, that was a tough matchup for them, but the Saints team have been playing everyone close. They went 1 point win against the Titans. They got a 3-point win against the Panthers, and they get a 1 point loss to the Green Bay Packers. So this Bucs team's been feisty enough that I trust them to get it done here against Jameis. And, Jameis, I mean, we haven't seen him play a ton with the Saints. I don't think he's that same guy that's, throwing, 30 interceptions and 30 touchdowns. He's going to be a little more conservative. And they do get Kamara back, but the Bucs front has always been good against Kamara. That is one thing. So I just trust this Bucs defense to keep it close in what should be a low-scoring game.
Yeah, I mean, anytime we talked about this for years. Anytime you could fade Jameis as a favorite, even if he's more conservative now, he still can make that key turnover at any point in the game, a pick six. Bucs could bait him into a mistake. I also don't think that the Saints front is, look, Cam Jordan has played better than I thought he would this year. But this Saints front, especially in the interior, it's not a front that's going to consistently generate just a ton of pressure naturally like the Eagles did. And that's really, Baker Mayfield's like the simplest handicap. It's like, can you get pressure without blitzing? If you can, and you're able to drop guys back, he's going to make mistakes. The Saints are a really good fundamental sound defense, but they're not like that havoc-causing front. So I think Baker can keep up here and, yeah, no issues fading Jameis.
Over under 1.5 suspensions for this game.
Well, you didn't mention Lattimore Evans matchup.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's
Evans has always gotten the best of him, right?
No. I mean,
Lattimore's always shut him down, right?
Yeah, Evans tends to, like, what tends to happen is Evans tends to either have like a long catch and nothing else, or he just doesn't do as well, but he always gets into like a fight. Like they always get, so that's not ideal here, obviously, but we're talking about a 3.5, total under 40. And this Saints offense wasn't even looking great with Carr. Now you're talking about going to Jameis Winston. I still like the Saints' chances, but I wouldn't think Evans would have a monster game. If he does, great, but I'm not expecting Evans to have a monster game.
Got to be a Godwin game.
Yeah.
All right, for my third pick and the fifth overall of the Week 4 Sunday six-pack, I'm going with the Jacksonville Jaguars -3 in their home away from home over in London. I hate that I have to do this. By the way, I have 3 favorites.
I know this is a first.
That has to be a first.
Yep.
So look, this line before the season started would have been, I think, 4.5, 5. Jacksonville's been extremely disappointing. They've lost 2 in a row. They lost to the Chiefs at home, where their offense did nothing. They lost last week, got blown out by Houston. In fairness, pretty fluky as far as the final score. Like, they outgained them. They had, 7 more first downs. You had the fullback returning kicks for a touchdown for the Texans. You had the blocked field goal return. Like, it was a pretty fluky game. So that score looked a bit more lopsided. Lawrence has looked off. But that's something we've seen in the past. Inconsistency from Trevor Lawrence. Like, so would it surprise me if he comes out here and shreds a pretty vulnerable Atlanta defense that, doesn't really get a ton of pressure off of the edge to take advantage of some of the weaknesses that Atlanta's had there, specifically at right tackle? No, I wouldn't be shocked at all. But what this comes down to is just the matchup. So, and I like the situation is decent in that, look, Jacksonville's lost 2 in a row, desperation mode, going to London, which they're extremely familiar with. Meanwhile, Atlanta, off of a bad loss against Detroit, they're, kind of their second game on the road going overseas. But Atlanta hasn't looked great to me. I thought that they would be much more potent on offense. Some of the things that we talked about, we thought that they would do. They're not. I mean, how they're using all their different chess pieces. They go up to Detroit, don't do anything on offense. And then if you look back, who their first 2 wins, they beat the Green Bay by 1, but Green Bay's half their team's out. And then, you beat a rookie quarterback who has not looked good. That in week 1.
And you were down in the third until like the second half in that game.
Yeah.
Too.
So that looks worse. So, and what it comes down to is Desmond Ridder is just not progressed at all. No one thought he was going to be great or even good, but we thought he'd be a little better. And it doesn't seem like the staff, Arthur Smith, the offensive staff, trusts him to actually throw it downfield. So the playbook seems really limited. So this offense that was already rush heavy is even more rush heavy, and teams are just loading the box. Well, guess what? Jacksonville, despite their slow start, they have no issues defending the run. None. They didn't last year. It's a defense by scheme. Todd Bowles' disciple will stop the run. And this year, I think, let me see, Jacksonville is second in success rate, top 3 in success rate and EPA per rush. So there's a top 3 rush defense this year. Where they're not good is against the pass. We talked about this in the offseason. They're not getting a ton of pressure off the edge, and their secondary isn't very good. They're 23rd in EPA per dropback. I don't think Desmond Ridder could take advantage. So I think that I expect Lawrence to have a better game. I'll trust the better quarterback here in the better matchup because Jacksonville can even bring another safety down. They can load the box even more, which is what teams are doing against Atlanta. So, yeah, I'm going to buy low here. I mean, Desmond Ridder, for example, just to show you how bad he's been, I mean, he's among 30 quarterbacks, at least 100 plays this season. Ridder's 26th in EPA plus completion percentage over expectation composite. He's in the negative there, which isn't good. The only other 4 quarterbacks in the negative are Zach Wilson, Justin Fields, Kenny Pickett, and one-legged Joe Burrow, who's actually dead last. So he has not been good. I don't think he could take advantage of this Jacksonville secondary. I'm going to have faith in this Jacksonville team to bounce back. There's also they were unlucky in the special teams there. They've been a bit unlucky in a number of categories. They're 29% on third down. That's like Zach Wilson territory. Last year, they were in the top 10 in that quarter. They're 1 of 6 on fourth downs. Last year, they were 53%. Late down success rates, not a variance in those numbers, especially over short sample sizes. So I expect them to have a positive regression bump in the short term when it comes to these late down success numbers. And I'm gonna buy Jacksonville low. It's not the most. I don't show a ton of value on it, but I like the spot and I like the matchup because Jacksonville's strength on defense is against the run.
Yeah, it's, the Falcons, if they get behind, and it's crazy because they've actually won a couple of games where they've been down in the second half, but, you just don't have confidence in them really getting down. Now, Jacksonville, they just have to play better. I mean, I feel like we were here every year with Jacksonville, but, they lay an egg against Houston, lay an egg against Kansas City.
This is who they are.
They're not that bad. Yeah, but they're not
this is who
bad.
They
are. Like they got to get right at some point, and London is usually the spot. So I don't hate it. Yeah, I think like my number is probably 2.5, but yeah, I wouldn't bet the Falcons. It's just kind of, it's kind of a dead one for me. But you've been having success with these favorites, so hopefully we keep rolling. Okay, for my third pick and the 6th overall of the week for Sunday 6-pack. I felt a lot better about this one about an hour ago, but it looks like
that's
Houston,
always a nice preface before you get
right. No, yeah, I gotta be.
I liked this an hour ago.
Yeah, no, I mean, so Houston +3, and I already bet it, so it's not like it is what it is. But and I still like Houston, but I had this line, closer to a half point. Now it looks like Houston's other tackle, Josh Jones, is going to be out too. Now he's been pretty bad. He's ranked 61st to 67 at PFF tackles. He's given up 9 pressures, so it's not a massive loss. But now you're talking about a replacement level tackle, probably on the right side. Fant has been playing well. He'll go to the left side, but so it's not ideal. But either way, I think this Houston team getting 3 at home against Pittsburgh, that coming off 2 wins that they're fairly lucky to get, both of them. The Cleveland game, they get 2 defensive touchdowns. The Raiders game, Garoppolo might have been concussed for half of it. Josh McDaniels was coaching like he was concussed. It was just a very odd game. But
that would explain a lot of what Jimmy G was doing if he was concussed.
Yeah, no, seriously, he just didn't look right because he was getting the ball to Adams and Myers, and then he would just mix in.
Then they'd be like a floater, yeah, just like that. Yeah. It was very odd.
So, but the thing for me here is Houston has the better quarterback, and he is going to be under pressure. But Kenny Pickett, first of all, let me preface it by saying this: we know Stroud's going to be under pressure against this Pittsburgh D. That goes without saying. Kenny Pickett has been under pressure more than almost any quarterback in the league. This Pittsburgh offensive line has not been good, but Pickett has also been one of the worst quarterbacks from a clean pocket. Stroud, at least, I think, on the, 50, 60% of the time that he's clean, I think he can make more plays, and I think that's the difference in this game and what should be a pretty low-scoring game. Because while Pittsburgh's defense is better, Houston's offense has been far and away better. 1.8 points per drive, 17th. Pittsburgh is 1.1, 30th. In terms of scoring percentage, Houston's at 12th, Pittsburgh's 31st. And then really, Houston, the red zone has been an issue. They're dead last in conversion percentage at 27%. That tends to be volatile and regress. But Houston, at least, they've had 11 red zone trips. That's 8th most on offense. Pittsburgh is dead last in red zone trips. They've only had 3. So I am concerned, obviously, about the Texans' offensive line. It seems like they keep getting more and more hurt. But I thought about that last week, and it was a concern last week, and they made it work against Jacksonville. So I don't expect a lot of points here, but I do think that the market. I don't think Pittsburgh, given the state of their offense, no Deontay Johnson, they're averaging 3.2 yards a carry, even though they want to be a running team. And even Jaylen Warren, even though he's looked better than Najee, he hasn't really been able to get going on the ground either. So it's really just going to be a ugly matchup of two offenses that aren't going to be able to do much. But I think the difference in the game is that when Stroud gets time, I think that he's going to be able to make plays to Dell, to Nico Collins, and I think Pickett it's going to be a lot tougher for him to make plays. And also, Houston has gotten no running game, and their offense has still been okay. Well, Pittsburgh's been one of the worst teams in the league against the run, so Houston could manage, to do it that way in a game that they probably won't fall behind massively and have to throw. So it looks ugly, but I don't think Pittsburgh should be favored by 3 on the road. Coming on a somewhat of a short week, playing on Sunday night. So give me the Texans +3.
Yeah, I mean the Steelers' offense is still horrendous. The play calling. I mean, what they just run the. How many times are they just going to throw a back shoulder that throw to George Pickett? That is like their entire offense, and then they run it on 2nd and long still. And I mean, yeah, and what you saw last week, Pickett looked a little better. That's a horrendous defense that he was facing. Houston should get Petrie back too, who I love at safety, right? Petrie and Ward will be back on the back end.
I think Ward came back last week. So
yeah, I think Petrie's coming back this week from his rib injury or lung or bruised chest, something like that. And I love him. I think he's a player. But yeah, the offense is still broken. This is also a classic Tomlin loss spot as a favorite against a losing team on the road. By the way, like they just won on the road, second straight road game. They have Baltimore next week. Like this is a game where the Steelers under Tomlin, for as many times as they come out and they'll upset a team with me against the world, they'll come out in this spot flat as a pancake and they'll be down 14-0 8 minutes in.
Yeah, 15 25 and 1, 40% against the spread are the Steelers as a road favorite off a win in the Mike Tomlin era. Do a favorite over a losing team for Tomlin. Right, favorite from a losing team. That would be, let's see,
home and road.
So yeah, nine. So yeah, the Steelers are 9-22 against the spread as a road favorite off a win, going against a losing team, and then overall at home they're pretty even. They're 15-15. So really, it's on the road. Just this exact kind of spot is exactly where
this is the flat Tomlin spot. Throw in the fact they have Baltimore next week. You could see them coming out with a lack of focus, and those are the trends that I like. It's like, because Tomlin is a rah motivator coach, and this is the spot where, like, you might not be able to rally the troops as much as you will be able to next week against, say, Baltimore. So yeah, with the 3 here, it's got to be Houston. Even though it's going to be Austin, you just got to watch. You just can't. Stroud hasn't been great under pressure, as you would expect for a rookie. He has 0 big time throws, 4 turnovers where he plays. So you just got to watch. Like, you just have to hope that the Steelers, I call them their offense, doesn't score, which is their edge rushers.
Right, yeah.
Austin Deculus, who's going to get his first career snaps at tackle in the NFL. He was at left tackle today in practice. He was LSU fans will remember him. He started on the 2019 national championship team. So that'll be something to watch. It is amazing the amount of injuries the Texans have had at offensive line. It's just stunning. It's not even just starters out. It's then their backups are getting hurt, and it's a crazy situation. But Stroud has definitely looked great overall so far in his young career, even with all of those injuries. And your guy Tank Dell is a stud. Yeah,
that's really what it comes down to. It's just offense is going to win you more games than defense at the end of the day. And the Steelers already have they've already gone there. They've already emptied that. You know what I mean? Like two against the Browns, and that elite, like, they had no business winning that game. So yeah. It's ugly, but I mean, that's what we do here on this podcast, right? All right. To recap, the 6-pack Stuck has the Browns -2.5, the Bills -2.5, and the Jags -3. I have the Rams +1, the Bucks +3.5, and the Texans +3. All right, this week's Coach's Pep Talk comes to us from Al Pacino in the 1992 film Son of a Woman. And we got to dedicate this to let's go Denver Broncos and Chicago Bears, since they're playing each other. Both of them, I mean, the season probably couldn't be going any worse. I don't know how the Broncos overtook the Bears for having a terrible season. But that's what happens when you have more expectations, I guess. So dedicating this to the Broncos, to the Bears. And, I mean, we could also throw in your Baltimore Ravens, since they seem to let you down in these spots every year.
Well, gentlemen, when the shit hits the fan, some guys run and some guys stay. And if you think you're preparing these minnows for manhood, you better think again. What a sham. What kind of a show are you guys putting on here today?
The good thing is I'm not going to the game this year. It's the first time in like 10 years, because it's too early in the season. They always play in December. So, and I just have too much going on with college football and NFL. So I'm not going to be there. So hopefully that's the missing link. And the Browns have treated me well this year. So, yeah, unfortunately, this is one of those situations where I can't have the Ravens win and then not cover. So, yeah. But hopefully I'm not there, and that ends the curse of this game that I'm always there for and get a bad beat on.
Yeah, if the Browns cover, they will hand Lamar Jackson just his second against the spread loss as an underdog. He's 11-1 against the spread as a dog, covering by 8.8 points per game.
17-4 against the spread overall as a favorite of less than a field goal or an underdog. Nice. Which is why at this, especially with this total, I would not lay 3.
Yeah. Speaking of totals, we'll get to that in our next segment. But first, Stuck, you and I know more memories are made when you're there for live NFL action. And when you need tickets, Ticketmaster has got you covered. As the official marketplace of the NFL, Ticketmaster gives you more ways to find your perfect seat. Their interactive seat map gives you 360-degree previews of your section to make sure you have the best view of those pivotal plays. And if your plans change, Ticketmaster gives you more flexibility to sell or transfer your tickets. Plus, mobile tickets make getting in on game day a breeze, and you can even customize your Ticketmaster app to rep your favorite team's colors. Find tickets today at Ticketmaster.com/NFL. It's not too late, Stuck. You still want to go to that game. Hit up our good folks at Ticketmaster. But let's get into the favorite totals of the week for each of us. And we've both hit 2 out of 3 this year. Both hit last week. Thank you to Mr. Josh McDaniel for kicking a field goal after he took time, which essentially just helped the under hit in that Sunday night game. So I don't know what was going on there, but I'll take it. I'm up first for the total, and I kind of alluded to this, but Baltimore, Cleveland, got to go under here. 41 is the number. I have this closer to 39. Early down success rate. Cleveland, number 1 on defense at 25.7%. Baltimore is actually number 2 in early down success rate, which is impressive considering the injuries that Baltimore has been dealing with all season. So you got the top 2 defenses in early down success rate. You have the top 2 defenses in yards per play allowed. Cleveland 3.2, Baltimore 4.1. You have 2 teams that play at a relatively slow pace. Baltimore is 22nd in seconds per play, and the Browns are 29th in seconds per play. And then you have the injuries with, obviously Chubb is the big one for Cleveland. And it's crazy because he's been so consistent in terms of averaging over 5 yards a carry. He's 5.3 for his career. That's nearly a full yard above Kareem Hunt and nearly 2 full yards above Jerome Ford, who are the guys that are going to be filling in. Baltimore, Gus Edwards looks like he skipped the protocol or he got out of the protocol, so he'll likely be there. But Odell Beckham didn't practice Wednesday with an ankle. Rashad Bateman tweaked his hamstring. So, even if you get these guys back, you're talking about receivers with leg injuries. So, not ideal for an offense. And then if you need your depth, well, even your guy Tylan Wallace, who was not really going to ever play if everyone was healthy, but now if you have Bateman and Beckham out again, now you have no depth. Like if anyone goes down, you really can't do anything but 3 wide in this game with Duvernay, Aguilar, and Flowers. And then Stanley's a little banged up. Linderbaum, both of those guys, we'll see if they play, but just a banged up offense for Baltimore going against a great defense, as you mentioned. And Cleveland games average 35 combined points, which is obviously very low, but it should be even lower because here at Action Network, we do our luck rankings, and part of that is, we calculate expected scores for each game, which drives those where we kind of factor out the luck and, look at, given the circumstances, what a team was supposed to score in each game. And Cleveland's combined scores should be closer to 32 points a game. A lot of it was driven by those 2 defensive touchdowns by Pittsburgh that, hard to repeat week in and week out. So you don't expect those to happen every week. So Cleveland's been playing like lights out on defense, barely getting games into the 30s here. And Baltimore banged up, still playing solid on defense as well. And Deshaun Watson, I don't know if this is anything, if this is just an excuse to give him some rest, but they said he's not throwing at all on Wednesday, resting his shoulder. I don't know where that came from or what's going on with that, but that can only be good for the under. So divisional unders in week 4, which week 4 for what it's worth has generally been an over week. Usually, first few weeks of the season, totals are inflated. People start, casual bettors, a lot of casual money, betting overs. Finally start to realize it around week 4. The numbers come down. Overs tend to hit, but the exception is divisional games. And we saw these teams play a 13-3 game last year, but week 4 divisional unders, 27-11, 71% since 2015. All other unders over that span hitting at just a 43% clip. So if you're betting under this week, probably want to do it in a divisional game. Baltimore, Cleveland, under 41.
I like it. Yeah, this Browns defense is real, and the Ravens will keep this close. Should be like I'm gonna say like Cleveland Browns win 17-13.
I was thinking 17-12. So we're
on the same page.
Yeah.
All right, for my favorite total. So I'm gonna have to go on the fly here just to take you behind the process. I originally was gonna go Rams Colts over, but I just explained why it looks like Richardson's gonna start. So I don't like that as much anymore. Then I was gonna go Panthers Vikings over, but now it looks like Bryce Young's gonna start. I thought he was gonna be out. Frank Reich came out and said Bryce Young looks like he's going to start. The reason I like the over with Dalton is last week they went super fast compared to what they were doing with Bryce Young, and the offense actually looked competent, even though they had a million false starts. But that's the Seattle crowd. You don't have to worry about that this week. Minnesota's also so pass heavy; they're going fast. So this, and then look, both defenses are pretty terrible. This had all the makings of Dalton Cousins shootout. Minnesota's also been really unlucky, just like getting down in the red zone and fumbling. They've lost 9 of 10 fumbles. They between their opponents and them fumbling, there's been 10 fumbles on the field, and they've only recovered 1 of them.
Can we talk about how I feel like the football gods just like smiled at Alexander Madison, because if they didn't overturn that fumble, like what was it, like inside the 5 or inside the 10? Like he had like forward progress and he fumbled and they wrote.
Yeah.
Like if he fumbles that, I don't even want to see like his defense.
I don't understand why that. Yeah, that was a weird call too. But then they lose on a tipped pass at the goal line in the end zone that was intercepted.
Classic Vikings. Classic Vikings.
Yeah. So this had all the makings, but now like as we're recording this, like it's
Young is going to practice in full. Mingo is also practicing, even though he was in the protocol, or he's supposed to be limited, I believe. So yeah, and then Miles Sanders is
right. Just have to make sure there's no major setbacks, no flare-ups. But if he stays on track, then I think things are headed in the right direction, which sucks because Dalton played really well. So yeah, and the offense was just so much slower with Bryce Young, and it did not look good. And now you're going to go up against Brian Flores defense that might confuse him. I haven't liked what I've seen from Young so far. So let's go. We're going to go back to Rams Colts over. I still like it. I don't like it as much with Richardson in there, just because he isn't attacking downfield. So I think that the game plan, he might get a lot of methodical drives that chew the clock up, as I said earlier. But this Rams team can attack this Colts secondary, which is what you have to do. Throw it downfield. Stafford has looked great. They're going to get their points. And, this Rams defense has been a bit better than I thought. But with Kelly back, the offensive line, when they've been fully healthy this year, has been awesome. So they can handle – they don't have a glaring weak spot on the offensive line like Cincy did. So they can double Donald here. Richardson, I think, can make enough plays. So I don't really love any totals this week, but I show value in this over. And I think both teams can attack downfield in a fast track. So let's go with the Rams Colts over. So we're back to my first original over bet.
All right.
Would have liked it more if Minshew starts, but I still do like it, as I said earlier.
Yeah, because Richardson's average depth of target is 4.1, which is absurd. I thought it would be the opposite. I thought Richardson
he couldn't throw short.
Inefficient. Like
that was his problem in college. He could throw it downfield, but not. So maybe against the Rams here.
Well, they're going to play quarters probably, so probably not. Yeah. They're probably just going to sit back.
But maybe he takes a couple more shots. Just like he doesn't throw. I don't think he has a ball with 20 air yards this year. Not one. So yeah, the Rams are going to sit back just like they did with Burrow, because Burrow couldn't throw it deep. So there's going to be some methodical drives, which does not work in the over's favor. But I think both teams can put up enough points here on the fast track to get this into the low 50s.
Yeah, and you could, like I said, the Colts haven't turned the ball over since week 1. With Richardson back, might get a turnover. Maybe it's in turnover or 2 or 3. Maybe it's in in opponent territory, or gets housed or something like that too. So that could also
Yeah,
work in your
and
favor.
Stafford should cook.
Yeah,
against this.
that's why I like the Rams in this game. Coin flip game, but I think the Rams have a significant edge at quarterback, and I think everything else is kind of cancels each other out, like just two mediocre, maybe slightly below average teams. Okay, so yeah, I got Ravens Browns under 41. Stuck has back around to Rams Colts over 46.5. Now it is time for our favorite teaser of the week. All right, we are both 2-1 on the year on teasers. Both hit last week, and we both like the same teaser this week. Now, teasers, for anyone not familiar, it's when you get, usually the standard is 6 points, but it can be any number of points, but 6 points is the standard to parlay among 2 or more spread bets. So the standard is a 2-team 6-point teaser, which means an 8.5 point favorite becomes a 2.5 point favorite, and 8.5 point underdog becomes a 14.5 point underdog with the 6 point teaser. So Stuck has a lot of good content out on teasers and how he goes about just kind of approaching it, what key numbers he wants to tease through. So Google Stucky teasers and you'll find all that. But we both like the same teaser, so I'll let you break it down.
Yeah, a couple teaser options here. Said the Packers already. You can get them over a field goal and a touchdown. You also, the lower the total, the better, because there's less variance with fewer expected points. Perfect example, Tennessee, the Titans here. Total of 41. They're catching 2.5 at home. Rabel as a dog. But you can tease that super low total to up over 8. Perfect teaser spot for the Titans. Burrow's clearly not healthy. He missed a ton of throws. He's dead last in EPA plus completion percentage over expectation composite in a league that has Zach Wilson in it. So that's not great. And look, this should be a defensive battle. 2 teams that are 1-2, desperation mode, should be low scoring. 8.5 in your pocket's good there. I don't know where the Rams plus 1.5, getting that up over a touchdown. I know you like the Rams is also a good option, but we agreed our favorite teaser using just the Sunday sides, the Titans, and then the Eagles down from 8.5 to 2.5. Yep. Total there 44, so lower total. Should be expect a little bit of a lower scoring game, divisional game outdoors. But the real thing is Sam Howell, he cooked the Broncos defense, as does everyone, for 3 quarters, because the Broncos get absolutely no pressure. Last week it was a disaster because he holds the ball too long, and when he's under pressure, it's bad, and he makes bad decisions. I think the Bills had 9 sacks. I think I could be making that up, but I thought I saw that when I was doing my summaries. And they couldn't do anything on offense, and he even struggled against Arizona. So Eagles defensive front should get a ton of pressure here. And that Eagles offense, it still looks a little off from a passing perspective, but they're running the ball really well, and they should have enough to beat the Commanders at home by at least a field goal. So you're getting through the 7-3 there. So yeah, Titans, Eagles. Yeah,
9 sacks, 4 picks. That is quite the smattering of negative plays. 5 turnovers for the Commanders last week. Wow. Yeah, it was, geez. 1 of 9. That's what I was looking for. Yeah, 1 of 9 on third down. Yeah, the Commanders, I mean, the Eagles might mess around and cover this spread, but never like laying a lot of points in a divisional game. So yeah, like the tease here. So Philly from 8.5 to 2.5. Tennessee from 2.5 to 8.5. Philly, of course, is at home against Washington. Tennessee is at home against the Bengals. Now, let's get into our underdog moneyline parlay. But as a reminder, the Action Network podcast is presented by BetMGM, and you can use bonus code ACTION, that's ACTION, when signing up to get up to $1,500 paid back in bonus bets if your first bet loses. For new users in Arizona, Colorado, Illinois, Indiana, Iowa, Louisiana, Maryland, Massachusetts, Michigan, New Jersey, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Tennessee, Virginia, West Virginia, and Wyoming. Terms and conditions apply. Must be 21 or older. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. All right. Underdog Moneyline Parlay time. All right, we both hit 1 out of 3, which is actually probably below our mean. We usually closer to 500. So let's try to get back on the right track here. Who you got for your Moneyline dog this week?
Making a switch on the fly here again. It's with all the quarterbacks. Like I really thought that there was a good chance that we maybe could see Minshew, and I really did think we were going to see Dalton, and those were going to be. So I was going to go with Carolina for sure with Dalton against Cousins as a favorite, but now that I know it's Richardson in for the Colts, I'm going to ride your tails there, and I'm going to go with the Rams. Talked about that game a lot already, so let's go Rams money line.
All right, and the Rams are even money, so not too sexy, but do expect them to win that game. And if you have a +1, you can also take the money line. Essentially, the only thing you lose out on is if you push, but you get better odds. And I'm gonna go, and just so we don't have to talk about this game later, I'll go with the Chicago Bears +140. This Bronco team. I mean, are the Bears going to go 0-17? Maybe. If they're not, but if they're not, you got to start. Okay, which games can they potentially win? Maybe one of the division games, obviously. But this Bronco game is looking more and more winnable. And obviously the Broncos are a more talented team, but I don't know where their heads are going to be at. Normally we like teams coming off big losses, but both of these teams are coming off big losses. Chicago at home, even against the Bears, I don't know if anybody should be laying more than 3. So the money line is +140 here. If Justin Fields is ever going to have a decent game, it's probably going to be here. So give me the Bears at +140.
Yeah, it's a shit game. So this game probably shatters too somehow. Whenever you have these games with like shit teams, you don't know what to expect. A lot of times it just turns into a fun shootout. So maybe that does. But I will say that the most trustworthy unit in this game is the Broncos offense.
Famous last words.
Which is funny. But both defenses have been so pitiful. I mean, it's been bad. And yeah, we'll see. Fields doesn't do anything this week against a defense that can't get pressure, can't stop a nosebleed. I mean, Sam Howell carved this team up. Then it's trouble. So, whatever. In the shit game, if you want to take the money line dog, that's fine. Fine with me.
I mean, also it's probably just
don't keep talking about it. You're going to talk yourself out of it.
Sean Payton. No, I'm not. Sean Payton karma, man. He talked all that junk, and now his team's looking even worse than Hackett had it looking last year. So, let's see if it keeps up. All right, now it is time for the best of the rest. Games we haven't covered in any other segment, but are still, as they say, meaningful to some. All right, first up, we got the Patriots at the Cowboys. Cowboys favored by 7 at BetMGM. The total is 43, so even numbers abound. Cowboys, you would think it's a bounce back spot, but this Patriot defense is tough, and the Cowboys do have some issues defending the run. We saw that against Arizona. So what do you think about this one?
Yeah, I mean, I made it like 6-8, so no play here. And yeah, that the run defense is an issue for the Cowboys. Also, the adjustment without Diggs won't be as big of an issue here this week, but that's just something to watch going forward. I do give the Cowboys a little bit of a pass. They had some offensive line injuries last week, but so does everyone. You're playing Arizona. It was a horribly coached game. They got really unlucky in the red zone. They were there a bunch, but I just think it's one of those games where they just completely overlooked. They just didn't show up and got punched in the mouth. Can't do that against anyone in the NFL. So from an emotional standpoint, yes, it's a good bounce back spot, but laying 7 against this Patriots defense and a Patriots offense that'll commit to the run, which is, I think, didn't Arizona ran for over 200 yards against? I mean, they were running a bunch of different ways with some of their receivers and backs and Dobbs. So yeah, that could be a matchup advantage for the Patriots. Also, the Patriots signed Will Grier. Zeke revenge game. There's a bunch of what do we have? A Thielen revenge game.
Ridley
revenge game. Zeke revenge game. But they signed Will Grier and they have Zeke. So I think it came out that the Cowboys are going to change all their signals this week and all their calls because Zeke and Grier know them all. I think the quote was like they know where the bones are buried. So we're going to change all of our signals. So that could be a little messy, or maybe like they tricked them. I don't know. That'll be a fun little game within the game to watch, but that familiarity could help the Patriots for sure. And yeah, we'll see if I expect a better game from Dak, and I expect the Cowboys to bounce back, but I'm not laying 7 in a game. I make 6-8 with some matchup advantages for the Patriots. This is a pass.
Yeah, if I had to take a side, I would absolutely take the Patriots. Something I am watching because you and I talked in the offseason. I said, hey, Dallas like them more than I pretty much ever have in terms of Super Bowl futures, but wanted to see the play calling and wanted to see the kicker. Well, the kicker's been all right. The play calling is what everyone's kind of talking about, but I wonder if Dak is going to become a bigger talking point because he had the horrible interception and, they kept running the ball in close with time running down and you say, okay, that's horrible play calling. But then you see Dak's decision on that interception and you start to wonder, right? Like, okay, maybe there's a reason why we're calling, we're putting the ball in Tony Pollard's hands. And now you look up and we're 3 weeks into the season. And yes, he played the Jets, but he also played the Giants, which is horrible defense, and Arizona, which not much there. They've been playing okay, but not a ton. Dak is averaging 6.3 yards an attempt. His average up to target is just 6.2. Like he's like this has not been an efficient pass offense. I know they missed Cooks for some time, but
that could go back to what I was saying. I was saying earlier in the year that I think early in the season, Dak is going to be super conservative mentally because he's so worried about the interceptions. Because that was the biggest talking point in the offseason. And he was like, I guarantee I won't. So he's like, I thought he was going to play really timid and conservative. And that's kind of what I'm seeing. He just has to say, fuck it and let it go. Because then you're just overthinking everything. So yeah, there's something definitely going on there. And definitely worth monitoring.
Okay, Vegas at the Chargers, and the Chargers are favored by 5.5. The total's 48. Full disclosure, I was going to make this my third pick of the 6-pack, but as we were recording this, it looks like Jimmy G is still in the protocol. Now, I don't know exactly how serious it is because the line hasn't really budged. It was actually 6, but I bought out. I had bet the Raiders at 6, so I bought out with Chargers at 5.5 just because I don't, if they start Brian Hoyer or Aiden O'Connell, I want no parts of this. But, I was looking at this game because I think, the Raiders coming off prime time against this Charger team that really has not been winning games by margin. Like the Chargers, since going back to 2022, so going back to the start of last year, the Chargers have won 11 games, and they've only won 4 of them by more than 6 points. So, this is not – that means 4 out of their 20 games, really, if you're looking at them, would they have covered this number? So that was kind of my thinking there. And then the Raiders, since McDaniel took over, they've done the same thing. They've got a ton of losses, but – only a handful have been by more than 6 points. So both the Raiders tend to lose close, the Chargers tend to win close. So I did like this number at 6, 5.5. But with the Jimmy G uncertainty, I have to stay off of it. But follow me in the app. If maybe if Jimmy G gets ruled in, we'll get back on it. But that was kind of my thinking. Any thoughts on this one?
No, it's too much uncertainty here. I will say, though, the Chargers are going to charge her. That's basically all this is. I will say, the Chargers aren't getting much pressure. Their defense has been bad, and that's basically what it comes down to when you face Jimmy G. Jimmy G this year under pressure has an 11 quarterback rating. 11. 0 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. I think this ties into the 49ers game a bit too. The biggest difference between Jimmy G and Brock Purdy is in his final 2 seasons, Jimmy G could win any game with the 49ers, could make, all the throws, but if he was under pressure or had to get out of the pocket, he couldn't do it. He wasn't able to improvise. He's not very mobile. Look, here's a stat. Over his final 2 seasons with the 49ers, Garoppolo 13 touchdown passes, 12 interceptions, and a 12% explosive pass rate under pressure. So 13, 12, 12%. Purdy, during his young career over 2 seasons, 7 touchdowns, 1 interception, 16% explosive pass rate when pressured. Night and day. And that is the difference. That is why the ceiling is so much higher with this 49ers offense, because Purdy can handle pressure and has been able to make plays and can move a little bit more than Jimmy G. But Chargers are going to Charger. Too much uncertainty for me to get involved there.
And then we got Vikings Panthers, which I feel like we've talked about a ton, but haven't actually made any picks. So just real quick, Minnesota is favored by 3.5 on the road in Carolina. The total is 45.5. It looks like Bryce Young is going to go for Carolina. Mingo, the rookie wide receiver, also got in a limited session Wednesday. So they could be decently close to full strength. Could the Panthers on offense? Any thoughts to wrap this up? Yeah, not on defense.
Yeah, defense, a lot of injuries. Although I think Lulu's going to not miss a lot of time. I don't know. But they have a lot of injuries on the defense. I can't back Bryce Young. He does not look good. The offense does not look good with him. I would have bet the Panthers here in some form or fashion if it was Dalton. But I'm also not laying 3. I'm not laying over a field goal on the road with the Vikings in this defense. But with Young, it's a pass.
Yeah, usually you'd be fading the Vikings here, but this Carolina team just does not give me good vibes. And you kind of alluded to it. Them with Dalton is probably peak Panthers for this year. That's probably just how it's going to be because they're not even going to use Bryce Young on quarterback sneaks. This is going to use Andy Dalton, like 30-something-year-old Andy Dalton instead of your rookie quarterback. Like this is such a I don't know what the Panthers got going on here, man. But just like the Chargers be charging, the Vikings do Vikings. So if there was ever a time for the Panthers to get a win, get a cover, whatever it may be, this probably as good a spot as any. But yeah, I'm low on the Panthers, so and I have their under on their win total, so I'm off this game unless I have a prop. And then we'll close it out with the Jets.
By the way, Vikings Chiefs next week. Vikings lose this game, their season's over. Panthers season's already over.
Yeah. Vikings. I mean, they're circling the drain, but in this division, one of Detroit.
Yeah, but if they lose this week, then the Chiefs, they're 0-5.
Yeah.
I'm saying if they lose this week, their season's over.
Yeah, so you'll probably get what's an effort from the Vikings though? Just they just fumble with more ferocity. Like I don't even know what that looks like. But we'll see Cam Akers maybe he'll rush like 8 times for 3 yards or something. So there's always that. But Jets Chiefs, I'll have a write up for this one. And curious to your thoughts because I think it's 9.5 in favor of the Chiefs. Their total is 42.5. Usually in these games, we're ready to go bet the dog, low total, high spread. Chiefs never cover as favorites, but eventually, I think the Chiefs got down to like 26% as like a favorite of a field goal or more since like November 2020. So eventually that's going to start to even out. We saw it against the Bears. I think it probably continues to even out here. But I don't know. What are your thoughts? You back the Jets against the Cowboys
That was the spot.
Thoughts? Yeah.
That was the spot because I wasn't backing Zach Wilson. I made that clear. I was backing the Jets defense to step up in a game where you just lost your starting quarterback, us against the world, going on the road, and against a Dak in that offense, which doesn't look great. They shit the bed. And by the way, this Jets defense that chirped all that offseason talk, we're the greatest. We're going to be legendary. We're going to be 85 Bears, 2,000 Ravens. Some of the Steelers greats. I'm trying to name all the great defense so I don't get yelled at by some of the fan bases out there. Go look at all their underlying metrics. This defense has performed average to below average. They're like between 15th and 21st if you look at DVOA, EPA, success rate. This defense has been disappointing. That's who would need to show up here. The spot was against Dallas. They didn't even make enough plays against New England. And no, I'm not putting my money on Zach Wilson. The Chiefs' numbers made sense why they were bad as a big favor because their defense was always so bad that you could just get in the back door so easily, and you were in shootouts. But their defense is playing a lot better. Definitely worth exploring. We stayed off the Bears last week in a spot where we just couldn't trust the Bears, and I just can't trust the Jets here. If Zach Wilson, this game's in New York, if Zach Wilson is bad, like bad as he's been all year, early, like the crowd is going to turn so quick. And then what do? Do you bring in Tim Boyle, to Simeon, to try to learn the playbook in 3 days? Like if it's bad, Simeon probably starts next week. And then maybe I'll look at the Jets. Because Simeon is bad, but Simeon is not. Zach Wilson is so lost right now. Not only is he bad, he has no confidence. Like he checked down to a 1 yard out, covered 1 yard out on 4th and 10 with the game on the line.
The Kirk Cousins special. Kirk Cousins playoff special.
So yeah, Zach Wilson. It's a bad situation right now. The Chiefs defense is playing better. You're basically hoping that they got to score somehow because you're not going to keep the Chiefs out, especially the way this defense hasn't been as dominant as I thought, as you thought, as anyone thought. Clearly, as they thought they were going to be one of the best ever. That's certainly not the case. So I show a tad bit of value on the Jets. Well, I'm not betting it.
Yeah, I mean, I'd rather bet the Chiefs, honestly. It's because the thing I think the market may be underestimating, like you said, is their defense. It's been playing really.
The defense
well.
might be a bit overrated. Also, with the crowd turning, the locker room could be splitting, and then there could be just deflation on the sideline. Like you just can't move the ball, and then the floodgates could just open. Like the defense is like, "What the fuck are we doing here?" And then it could get ugly.
Yeah.
Hopefully we don't have to spend the whole prime time talking about Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce, but we'll see what happens on the broadcast.
Yeah, I'm
nothing against it, but that is everywhere. Everywhere I look, that storyline. Holy moly!
Yeah, I mean that was I at first it was like a rumor, like, oh, are they even dating? And then did you see it? Did you see the outfit he was rocking? He was rocking looked like a 2000s Mesquite freaking almost looked like a velour suit. It wasn't velour though. I think it was denim, but yeah, it's quite interesting. This team is interesting. Can't give them that. But yeah, I think the Jets, the Chiefs defense is a little underrated. So I may. And
the Jets defense might be overrated.
Yeah, so may.
And it's Zach Wilson versus Patrick Mahomes. You cannot have a bigger quarterback mismatch in the NFL right now.
Yeah. So yeah, it might be a rare play on a favorite, but stay tuned. I'll have that right about at actionnetwork.com and the Action app. By
the way, I went 3 favorites, and then luckily overs have been treating me well because I think I've hit 3 in a row.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Including the Thursday night. I went another over this week and 3 favorites.
Yeah, that is
could have another beat.
Word. I don't think that has ever happened. An over and 3 favorites.
And my money line dog is even money.
Yeah. You are. You're feeling these favorites this week. These last few weeks, really. But hey, it's like whatever's on the board, right? Find the best plays. Because you saw me struggling. I'm like, Jesus. Every time I go to the news.
This is a crazy week with injuries. This is a crazy week with injuries, and let's hopefully get a couple bounces and have another big week.
Yeah, and we haven't forgot about Survivor. We'll get to that next. So I know everybody out there wants to talk about that. So, but before we do that, let's talk about our new sponsor, Factor, America's #1 ready-to-eat meal kit. Factor hooks you up with delicious, chef-prepared, ready-to-eat meals delivered straight to your house. You'll save time, eat well, and stay on track with a healthy lifestyle. There are 3 main things we love about Factor. Number 1 is no chopping, prepping, or cleaning up. Number 2, you get great flavor and nutritional quality that you need to tackle challenging topics like whether you should fade Zach Wilson, even though the Chiefs are laying 9.5, and Factor's fresh, never frozen meals are ready in just 2 minutes. So run your own 2-minute drill with Factor and enjoy eating well without the hassle. Select your meals and enjoy fresh meals delivered to your door. Just head to factormeals.com/actionnetworkpod50 and use code actionnetworkpod50 to get 50% off. That's code actionnetworkpod50 at factormeals.com/actionnetworkpod50 to get 50% off. And those Factor meals are pretty good. I got a chance to have a batch. Shouts to Factor for sending some over. I'm feeling it. Shouts to Factor. Let's talk Survivor. You got knocked out by Russell Wilson. Still hilarious. Okay. So I went Washington in week 1, Giants in week 2. Just barely. We could have both been knocked out. That would have been crazy. Went KC. This week, I got to go San Francisco. Looking at San Francisco. Now, granted, they could always luck into a situation where a team loses their starting quarterback, and this is a very dominant team. So ideally, I would like to save them, but I already used the Chiefs. Don't want to use the Eagles in a divisional game. We've seen the Commanders upset the Eagles at home, I believe, and don't trust the Cowboys against the Belichick defense. So there's really not many other options here. A lot of these other numbers are really, really small. And, maybe
just survive in advance this year with all the carnage that's happened.
Yeah. I mean, once upon a time, I'm sure people probably had the Broncos circled for this week if they didn't use them in week 2, but that's how it goes. So, I think this is the time to use the Niners. All their other, they have a game against Tampa Bay, which, doesn't look as enticing as it did, heading into the year. And then all the other games, divisional games that don't really want to take them. So we're going to take them in against Arizona, home favorite in a divisional game, 14. I think they should be able to get it done because Arizona's not going to catch San Francisco off guard. Long rest, just upset Dallas after almost upsetting the Giants. So I think if you have San Francisco and you haven't used them yet, I would use them. And if you use San Francisco against the Giants, which is possible, then I'm assuming you have the Chiefs. So then you would use the Chiefs. So, either way, San Francisco or KC, or go KC if you used San Francisco last week. That's going to wrap it you got any thoughts on this game?
No, I agree. I'm on your coattails. I agree.
All right. That's a wrap for us. Thank you for listening. We'll be back every Thursday all season long. You can hear more of me this week with my guy Sean Kerner talking fantasy, DFS, and props on the Fantasy Flex podcast. We also have the player projections episode right here on this channel, and you can hear Stucky talking college football on Big Bets on Campus every Friday morning. Stuck is on X at Stucky2. I'm at Chris Raybon, and you can find us at those same handles on the free award-winning Action Network app. Until next time, let's get this shmoney.